Hello out there. We're on the air. We are on the air. We are back. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another edition here. Cheers to you. We'll do our weekly weather report here for YouTube. We got some wild weather today. It was freezing. I was wearing my ski pants, my scarf, my mitts, my toque, my vest, my jacket, winter boots, everything yesterday walking Arnie. And this morning when I got up at 6 a.m., it was 4 degrees. So we went from minus 44 in the last couple of days to 4 degrees. I don't know how that's possible, but it usually spells trouble. So we're expected to get 2 feet of snow here in the next couple of days. And you might hear that and say, well, a lot of places get 2 feet of snow. But the difference here is that snow will not be going anywhere. Some places get snow and it's gone by the next day. That snow will be here for the next probably 4 months. But hey, I chose to live here. So I cannot complain. That's just our weekly weather report for anybody who cares. But anyways, we don't like wasting too much time on these shows because they are full of action-packed. I want to give a big shout out here before we start the show to Praetorian. What a nice guy, man. What a nice little comment there. $5 super chat for the channel. And he says, thank you for all you do every day. So usually I wait for about halfway through the show. I think one day we got into it with a guy in the chat before we started. And today I want to give a shout out to Praetorian for that nice comment and some super chat. So I'm going to talk through the game plan for today here in a second. This one is titled, How Could Anyone Possibly Ignore Bitcoin at This Point? And it's going to be a good show. I had kind of a rough draft. You guys are going to like this one today, I think. I had a rough draft laid out, and it was pretty basic. And then I was like, I'm going to, do a little bit more research here, see what else I can come up with. And now we have a long list of things we're going to go through. So it's going to be a good one. This is going to be one that you want to bookmark for sending to friends and family. And I'm going to explain the whole thing, but we'll get to that in a second here. But before we do, let's get into our the game plan for today. So we read the title. How could anyone ignore Bitcoin at this point? Mind-boggling, or as Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys would say, mind-boggling. So a big shout out this morning or this afternoon, I should say. I'm used to doing morning shows. We did a morning show today for 2 hours. We had some really interesting topics and subjects that we got into. It was a full spectrum. And here we are right back at her. So big shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. This is our weekly live stream on YouTube. We do a live stream every morning, Monday to Friday, on a couple other platforms. One that starts with an R and Noster. So I want to give a couple shout outs here to the Rumble, the people who have joined and subscribed over on the Rumble channel here. I know YouTube hates me saying that, but whatever. Let's see here. Who do we got? A shout out to Kashmir Fire. I'm going to be doing this every week. I like giving people shout outs. Kashmir, not Cash Fear. Kashmir Fire. We got BGIE. Giesbricht. And we got Raphael Lowe's. Lowe's 900. So we got a couple of people who jumped over. I can't believe there's not more. Like, it's crazy that people would show up and spend a couple hours with us here on a Tuesday, but not I think it's just a state of the world right now. Everybody's just I was going to swear there. Everybody's just lazy. Everybody's lazy. They're like, oh, I don't want too much work for me. I got to make an account and go to a different platform. So one theme I think we're going to see, and this is actually what I spent 2 hours talking about this morning, is like people just having so much choice, so much agency, but they're just not willing to do anything about it. They're not willing to do anything with it. We have this amazing thing now called Bitcoin. We have all these amazing tools being built, open source, where people can use without anybody's permission, but people decide to use the closed off ones, the walled gardens, the ones that require you to put in your phone number and your birth certificate before you use them. So one day we'll get there. We're just not there yet. But big shout out to everybody who did join us over on Rumble. Subscribe over there. And the address there, I'm going to share it here because we're already too deep to stop now. But if you'd like to join us Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, we usually go for an hour, hour and a half, some days 2 hours. And we talk about a lot of stuff that I cannot talk about on here. A lot more F-bombs too. But I try to refrain for the lessons here. I want to try to be as professional as possible, as professional as a guy could be in a hoodie. So anyways, we got some shout outs here. Number one to Gigi. He was the guy who inspired this series called 88 Lessons. He wrote a book called 21 Lessons, a trip down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And it taught me a lot about Bitcoin, changed my perspective and my thinking around Bitcoin. So I want to give a big shout out every show to Gigi for all the work he's done and all the work he will do in the future for Bitcoin. He is an absolute legend. Michael Saylor, guy takes a lot of shit from all angles, but he said something along the lines of this, that people spend 100,000 hours of their life earning money, going to work. The least they could do is spend 100 hours learning how to keep that money. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to do a little comparison. I think you guys are going to like this one. So I'm going to do kind of an intro of why we're doing it, and then we're going to do the comparison, and then I'm going to give you some actionable items for after what you can do. So shout out to Saylor for the wise words. And kind of the idea with this 88 lessons here is that I want to be able to have something that somebody can spend less than 100 hours watching or consuming and have a very clear, well-rounded picture of why. Why Bitcoin? Because to me, Bitcoin is the most exciting thing, the only thing worth talking about in the world right now. And there's just so few people not only talking about it, but dedicating some time to learning about it. And there's so much opportunity. It's insane to even think about it. The human mind cannot comprehend how much opportunity there is in Bitcoin right now, truly. And you recognize that. You're here right now. So I want to give a big shout out to you, because part of this is taking on the responsibility. We are lucky enough to be alive and around at this time in history. And 100 years from now, people who are born will never get to experience what we get to experience here with Bitcoin. They never had a chance to live in a world with Bitcoin. Not just sound money, but pristine, absolutely scarce sound money. They never had a chance. And in 100 years from now, somebody's going to be born, and they would give anything to be back to exactly where you are right now. Anything. When you could trade $1 for 1,000 sats, they'll give anything to be back then. And hopefully their ancestors, us, took the responsibility on, took it seriously, and carried that wealth into the future for them, gave them the opportunity that they never had, because we took the responsibility. So big shout out to you watching the show on YouTube, on Rumble, and of course on Noster. New members we already did: Kashmir Fire, B. Giesbricht, and Raffaello. Cheers. Sponsors, we have none. Why don't we have any sponsors? We don't have any sponsors because, number one, we have an incredibly supportive community. That's the main reason why we don't have any sponsors. We've been able to do this for 2 years now, over 2 years, without any sponsors. Honestly, incredible. Incredible. I don't know how many people there are out there on the internet who are able to say that, but I think it's a combination of both. It's a combination of willing to take the hard path, but also having enough people there who find value in you that they are willing to support the mission. So we don't have any sponsors here. I think it's incredibly important to maintain my voice without any sort of outside influence from sponsors or people giving me money. I want to be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I don't want to have to worry about what this sponsor thinks, or if I said something wrong, what are they going to think about that? I wanted to do this the hard way, of course, but I think it's long-term a worthy mission. So massive shout out to everybody who watches the show, who has been supporting the show, both mentally, like support wise, but also financially. It's, I wouldn't be here without you. The game plan today, we're going to be doing our number 8 today, which is based around the title of How Could Anyone Ignore Bitcoin at This Point? It's kind of a mental block, I think, for a lot of people, but we're going to get to that in a second. We're going to do our segment, which is the weekly smash buy. And we're thirsty for some sats today. We're going to see how many we can get. And it's all based on the price. So we're going to be doing this every week going forward. We're going to buy a small amount of Bitcoin or a big amount, depending on how much cash you got kicking around. But that'll be our weekly smash average. We'll do that at some point. We might give away some free Bitcoin if we can get the website working this week. And I just want to give a quick little plug here to our Bitcoin Citadel, Bitcoin advisory educators. We help people set up their cold storage, run a node, run a Linux computer, have a private phone, privacy phone, Graphene OS, set up a multi-sig, set up something above multi-sig, which is multi-sig with encrypted backups, all this kind of stuff. So we have some amazing people over there, very, very, very intelligent people, some of the best minds in Bitcoin. I truly believe that. And it's different. We do things a little bit differently around there. So if you're interested, if you need help securing your stack or becoming a little bit more sovereign, you can check out bitcoincitadel.net and book one of us for a call. I believe we're the only company out there who does value for value, where you don't have to make a big payment up front for a bunch of time. If you just got a couple questions, you can set up a call. 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever you need. We'll help you with where you want to go, and you can pay us whatever you feel is worth to you. So something that unique that we do. I don't know if anybody else out there does that. So that's the little intro there. And I see a lot of chats coming in here. So I just want to say big shout out to everybody in the chat. I will be keeping an eye out on them, but we're going to go through our lesson number 8 here today. I also realized that I didn't do a show on Saturday. Don't know why. I guess the last couple of weeks I've been kind of scheduling in advance, but I had a busy week last week, but no excuse. So I think we're going to do back-to-back this weekend. We're going to do one on Saturday and we're going to do one on Sunday because we still have to do lesson number 7, which I forgot to do on Saturday. So sorry about that. I don't know if anybody was sitting there on Saturday morning waiting for lesson number 7 to come out, but that's my bad. So we're going to do lesson number 7, which is kind of just like the clip version of these lessons, but we do it in like a premiere version. So you can, there's like a live chat. You can show up, you can participate, I guess you'd say. We'll do lesson number 7 on Saturday, and we will do lesson number 8, today's. We'll do that on Sunday so we can get caught up. So for anybody in the chat, we're going to do like a discussion Q&A after. We're going to do the lesson first, and then we're going to get to the live chat after. So I'm not ignoring you. If you're sending some chats and some questions and things along the way, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going to be focused, laser focused here on the lesson. Are we on Nostr? Yeah, we are. We should tell Nostr that we're live though. We got a couple zaps over there already. We got Sin Diesel with an 18 Freedom units and 45. And we got Cannon zapped 88 and said, Scotty? I think Scotty's snoozing. And we got Cypher over there. Cypher zapped 21 sats. Thank you, Cypher, and said, good day, gents. Let's tell Nostr that we're live here before we begin the lesson. We are live for number 8 of 88. Ooh, a nice little lesson today. It might be the best one yet. There we go. Can't say I didn't warn you, Nostr. Okay, so let's start this off here. Let's get to lesson numero 8. Where is it now? Where'd it go? There we go. Lesson number 8. Okay, so Let's start with this. I'm going to show you where kind of my starting point was here, and then I'll just get to it here. No sense telling you what I'm going to do. Why don't I just do it? Right? But first, we'll take a nice little sip of coffee because it is cold here. That is delicious. Lesson number 8. This one's titled, How Could Anyone Ignore Bitcoin at This Point? And so for the first 8 episodes here, we've kind of been through a little bit of everything. We've talked about all the different use cases for Bitcoin. This is kind of the first chapter of the 88 lessons here, the use cases for it, pretty much like the why. That's like the big question mark here. So the first 7 episodes that we did were kind of focused around the why. Like, why would anybody want to use Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin valuable? But today we're going to be talking about similar, but like, why not? What's holding people back right now from Bitcoin? And that's the theme for today. So why not? How could anyone ignore Bitcoin at this point? Why are people having such a hard time with this? What's the mental block there? And so let's get to her here. My conclusion with this is that everyone kind of has their own reason for not to buy Bitcoin. Anybody out there right now who doesn't have any Bitcoin, they all kind of have a reason. And some of them are a little bit more, I guess, hell bent on it, a little bit more stubborn, you'd say, because there's a lot of reasons here. So the first one is that there are people who have never heard of Bitcoin, which sounds crazy. Like if I think if you would have asked me about a year ago, like, is there anybody on this planet who hasn't heard of Bitcoin before? I would have said like 99% of people have at least heard of Bitcoin. But that's not true. There's actually a lot of people somehow who have spent their entire lives and have never heard of Bitcoin before. So those people, I would say, they're not going to get much out of today's show because they have, they have long ways to go still. But then there are people out there who have their guard up against Bitcoin. And a lot of that is like subconscious programming. I'm sure if you asked anybody out there, they might have heard of Bitcoin, but they're like, well, there are people who don't understand Bitcoin. And that's kind of like the main answer that you get from somebody on the street. I think that you might say, hey, would you rather have $500 worth of cash or $100 worth of Bitcoin? Or sorry, $500 worth of Bitcoin or $100 worth of cash? And they know that there's a big variance there between the dollar amount, which is $100, and the Bitcoin amount, which is $500. But they'll just say, you ask them why, they'll say cash. Why? Well, I don't understand Bitcoin. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about it. So I don't want to put my money into it because I don't understand what it is. And those people, just like the thumbnail suggests in the video here today, those people are going to have a lot of regrets in the future. So that's one of the reasons. And then there are people who heard something about Bitcoin. And those people would be examples of that would be, I heard that Jeffrey Epstein created it. I heard that Vladimir Putin created it. I heard that it's controlled by the government. I heard that it can be traced, and it's kind of an introduction to CBDCs. It's the first step towards CBDCs. There's a wide range of answers here that people will say. But the reality is that they've just taken zero time to understand what Bitcoin is. They've spent 0 hours, and everybody watching the show who's a regular viewer of the show knows what we call those people. They've spent 0 hours trying to learn about Bitcoin. 0. So there's 0 hour people. I would say, forgive my language here for a second. I'm just going to ask for short-term immunity here. So people with no opinion on Bitcoin and have spent 0 hours on it, they're called pre-coiners. Pre-coiners or no coiners, whatever you want to call them. And then people with an opinion, you know who I'm talking about. Lots of people like this on Twitter, lots of financial experts out there, lots of financial advisors, a lot of analysts out there, people with an opinion on Bitcoin, but have actually spent 0 hours trying to figure out what Bitcoin is, what's all the fuss about. We call those people 0 hour dipshits. So here's the thing, like one of these things here was Bitcoin is controlled by the government. So that's why they're not into it, because it's controlled by the government. It was created by the government. Or because they don't know who the creator of Bitcoin was. That's another one. So what I did here is I wanted to demonstrate this, and I made a little wee chart here comparing the two. Right? Because that a lot of people, that's where they get tripped up. They have this reason, this one thing in their head that they maybe subconsciously heard in a news article or a conversation with a friend, or they overheard it from coworkers at work. They've just heard like one or two things about Bitcoin, and that's kind of just like stuck into their head, even though they spend zero time actually verifying whether or not that's accurate. And so people like that who will say, you know, I don't want anything to do with Bitcoin because I think the government created it and it's a path towards CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. So my point of doing the episode today is just to demonstrate, like I want to show a couple things here. So with Bitcoin, we'll take away the certainty here. I'm going to take this out of the equation here. I don't want to distract people. But the creation of new units, dollars, Bitcoin, or dollars and sats, we'll call them, because sats or satoshis are fractions of a Bitcoin. That's why this channel is called 88 sats. So they're fractions of a Bitcoin, just like cents in a dollar. And there are 100, where'd that percent come from? This is an example of taking the hard path in Excel on, because this thing kind of has a mind of its own. There's 100 cents in a dollar. There's 100 million sats in a Bitcoin. So when I'm talking about sats, that's what I mean. It's a fraction of a Bitcoin. And so these are fiat units, and these are sats. So the creation of these are things that we know. So again, this is kind of like the mental block that people have, and it's 100% to do with programming. Everybody goes to school as a kid, and they're just programmed to believe that money is issued by the government. That's what money is. When in fact, that is absolutely not what money is. And I personally went through grade school, high school, college, university. I did my master's in accounting. Essentially, that's what it is, a CPA. I minored in economics, and I was not actually taught what money is. So if somebody could take that path, a very financial focused path, and still not know what money is, it's hard to blame the average person who has no idea what money is. But it's all programming. It's all programming. So the creation of it, how are new units created in fiat land? They're created out of thin air. It takes zero energy to create new units. They used to have to print them, which actually required some trees and some effort and some labor. But now they just add zeros on a spreadsheet. Whereas Bitcoin, in order to create new Bitcoin, you actually need energy from the physical world to create them. You cannot create new Bitcoin without physical energy. So that's when people say Bitcoin's backed by nothing, it's literally backed by energy. You cannot create Bitcoin. There hasn't been one single Bitcoin put into circulation without physical energy backing that. So the issuance, unlimited fiat. It's unlimited, depending on the policy of the government, whatever they want to do this week, it's unlimited. There's no limit to it. They say there's a debt ceiling, but then they just raise the debt ceiling every time. Whereas Bitcoin, there's a fixed amount. There's absolute scarcity. 21 million coins, 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. That's the fixed amount. And it will be that way forever. As we're going to see here in the next part, why that is. The supply. Can anybody here tell me how many dollars are out there between US dollars, Canadian dollars, Japanese yen, Mexican pesos? Can anybody give me an approximate amount of how many dollars are out there? They tell us the M1 money supply, the M2 money supply, this country, blah, blah, blah. But they've never been audited before. We're 100% relying on them to tell us the truth. And I don't know if you've been paying attention much for the last couple of years, but it's pretty evident that they don't really tell the truth about anything. But, they're probably telling the truth about money. And even the amounts that they give us, they're very, very approximate. So it's unknown. Whereas Bitcoin, you could go to a website right now and see exactly how many Bitcoin are in circulation. And I'll show you. Let's take 2 seconds here, maybe 5 seconds. And let's see how many Bitcoin are in circulation. Right here. 19.96 million Bitcoin. So a lot of people have this belief that there's 21 million Bitcoin. There will be 21 million Bitcoin that exist ever. Right now, this exact moment, there's 19.96 million. And you don't have to believe me or this website. You can actually go through every block since January the 3rd, this Genesis block right here. And you can look at every single block, every single transaction, where it came from, who it went to. You can verify this yourself. You don't have to trust me or this website or the time chain. You can go through yourself and you can look at block 100,000. You can look at, in this case, there was 4 transactions. So hardly anybody was using Bitcoin at this point. But you can see where it came from, where it went, how much Bitcoin's there. And you can do that today too. You can look at the last block that was mined 15 minutes ago from Red Rock Pool. Nice. That looks like a solo miner. But you can click into it and you can see all the transactions that are in that block. Now it's 3,000 transactions per block. And you can see the new coins here that were created. Every time there's a new block, new Bitcoin are created. That's a Coinbase transaction here. And you can see all the transactions here. Who sent it, where it went to, how much Bitcoin they sent, how much of a transaction fee. You can see when it confirmed, all this stuff, all the details. You can audit this yourself. So going back to that, we know exactly how much supply there is at any given moment, and we can verify it ourselves. We have no idea how many dollars are out there. Do you know how big of a problem that is? How do you value anything in society if you don't know how many dollars there are? Because dollars, when you're valuing anything, dollars are the denominator at the bottom. And if you don't know what that number is, it's impossible to fairly value anything. Right? Because if you say this car is worth 20,000 US dollars today, but then the US government prints $2 trillion next month, is that still worth $20,000? Because there's a lot more dollars out there now. Who controls this? So this is what I mean. Like, people say, well, the government created Bitcoin. The government created fiat and they control it. We know that. Like, there's no question about that. Maybe the government did create Bitcoin, but it's fully decentralized. And if you understand Bitcoin, you know what I mean. It's fully decentralized. It cannot be stopped. There's tens of thousands of Bitcoin nodes, software running around the world, who are keeping track of all these transactions. So if you take one of them out, has no impact on the network. You take 1,000 of them out, has no impact on the network. That's what decentralization means. So we know for a fact that fiat is centralized. It's literally called the central bank. And then what enforces it? Fiat is enforced by weapons. Bitcoin is enforced by code. So that's kind of where I started. And I was like, well, Jor, we should probably take a little bit deeper than that. Conversation with myself as I'm getting ready for the show today. And so we did. And that's why I was a little bit late for the show today. But I came up with this thing. This is so let me preface this, because I really want people out there, if you're watching this, you probably have a decent understanding of this already, but I want to provide tools for the people who are going to be coming into Bitcoin and trying to understand what this thing is. And so there's a couple different things here that I want to mention actually before we get to this part. And in the last couple of weeks, I came up with this acronym, which is, not everyone is ready to be saved by Bitcoin. So what does that mean? There's a lot of Bitcoiners out there. This is a very common question that I get. It's like, Jor, how do I orange pill, or how do I get my friends and family and people that I love into Bitcoin? And it's a struggle. It's honestly a nightmare trying to do it. And so one thing I came up with is the SAVED acronym for people to remember. So in order to spend any of your time and energy trying to talk to somebody about Bitcoin, they need to be these 5 things. Number 1, sovereign. They have to have a lack of trust in the system that surrounds us. They have to be on the path towards sovereignty. They've lost trust somewhere along the way in the system that we operate in, and they want to become more sovereign. Similar to awakened, people have to understand awakened. They have to understand why. Like, they have to be awake to how much of an illusion, how much corruption, manipulation, and just straight up evil the fiat system is. They have to be awake to that. Next one here is they need to be a visionary. They need to understand that the time and energy that they put into this network in terms of learning it, allocating capital towards it, it might take a while to pay off. They have to have a vision of the future that looks much different than today. They also have to be empowered. They have to have the agency, the responsibility. They have to be able to take accountability for themselves, because nobody's there to help you in Bitcoin. Nobody's there to save you. You have to take this on yourself. So you have to be empowered to go down a Bitcoin journey. And the last one here is disciplined. Because there's a lot of highs and lows in Bitcoin, because it's a very misunderstood asset. Hardly anybody on this planet understands what Bitcoin is at a deep level. And so that means that it's going to be very volatile for probably a long time. So it's going to go up, it's going to go down, and you have to be disciplined enough to say, I'm going to commit to this. I'm not going to look at the price day to day, but I'm going to be here for at least 5, 10, 15 years, and then I'm going to reevaluate. People have to be disciplined. So I would say that these 3 things here, sovereign, awakened, and empowered, are the most important part. So what I'm doing today is I'm actually going to try and help people with this part, with the awakened aspect. Because when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're already on their way to sovereignty, they're already awake, and they're already willing to take on this responsibility themselves, these 3 things, then it's a very easy conversation. It's a very easy conversation. But for anybody who's not there yet, they have to understand this. And that's why I called this freedom units and units of illusion here. I didn't put Bitcoin and I didn't put dollars, because everybody has this negative thought around Bitcoin. If they've taken 0 time to understand and learn, they have this negative connotation around Bitcoin, simply because of the centralized entities who do not want Bitcoin to succeed. Their main tool against Bitcoin has been throwing FUD at it, throwing just bullshit. And so that's what people have in their subconscious brain, is this very negative connotation around Bitcoin. But when you can look at this thing objectively without associating it to Bitcoin, or at least trying your best to take Bitcoin, the word, and your association with the word out of the equation here, it's very obvious that one of these systems is what not only we should be using, but we will be using in the future. So we're going to go kind of line by line here. Freedom units we're going to look at, and we're going to compare it to the units of illusion. So the first one here, freedom units are issued according to fixed rules in code with no central issuer. So there's no CEO, there's no board of directors, there's no policymakers who get together to decide things. It's all based on code. That's why there's a famous quote in the freedom unit realm, which says, rules, not rulers. It's rules in code. That's what freedom units are. Whereas units of illusion, they're issued by central banks, which can expand or contract based on policy. They get to make the rules. They're the rulers. Freedom units, monetary policy is transparent and predictable and viewable by all, which is what I just showed you there in the mempool. It's transparent, predictable, viewable by all. And there's a supply schedule, which new supply gets cut in half every 4 years. So everybody knows the policy. Whereas in the illusionary land, the units of illusion, monetary policy is discretionary and can change based on who's in charge and what's going on. Are there any crises like the big pandemic of 2020? Is there a war? They need to print a bunch of money to buy weapons and send overseas? Or is there an admin change who promised this for their citizens and has to print money to fulfill those promises? It changes. It's discretionary. It's based on the rulers, what they want to do with it. The freedom units, the government or the governance is bottom up. It's ran by the nodes, the individuals, the miners, and the users, and they can either adopt or reject the changes, any changes. The nodes, the miners, and the users have the ability to decide the changes or if it should stay the same. Whereas the governance in fiat is top down. A small group of policymakers get to decide the rates, the issuance, and who gets bailed out. They get to decide the winners and the losers. Doesn't seem too fair to me. The supply of freedom units is capped at 2,997,690,000 sats, units, I should say, sorry. Enforced by the network consensus, which means if the network gets to decide and the network is the people who are holding these units, the network would never vote to increase that supply. Why? Think of the incentives. Why would you want to dilute your holdings? It doesn't make any sense. So that's enforced by the network consensus. And the incentives are to leave that as is. This is the number here that I want everybody to get tattooed on their body somewhere, or at least put it on their bathroom mirror, because this is the most important network in the world, or the most important number in the world, right there. Whereas in the illusionary world, the supply is infinite, and it can be changed based on politics, credit demand, risks, inflation targets, all these different things. It can change, goes up, and it doesn't go down, but it goes up. It's just what rate it goes up. In other words, how much money are they printing? So this is what I said before here. The new supply halves every 4 years until it reaches 0% inflation. Could you imagine? Could you imagine a network, a currency network, where there's zero inflation? We can't, because we've never had that before. But that's what this is designed to do. New supply, it halves every 4 years until there's none left to be mined in the year 2140. Whereas in the illusionary world, it's inflationary over time as authorities target positive inflation to support debt-based systems and growth. I mean, if this isn't the biggest red flag paragraph you've ever seen in your life, I don't know what is. They believe that they should print more dollars to target a positive inflation to support a debt-based system and growth. So this is basically what everybody gets taught in school, which is Keynesian economics. This is what I was taught in school. Keynesian, where you need to print money if you want to grow the economy. This is Austrian economics. Value added. Those who create value get value back. And it doesn't matter how many units there are. And you can continuously, and that's not even included in this, but you can actually split a Bitcoin into an infinite amount of units. So just because there's a cap, that doesn't mean we're ever going to dry up of units. That's an important part, because that's another argument that people say. Well, it has a fixed supply, so there's not enough Bitcoin for everybody. That's nonsense. That's Keynesian economics. Austrian economics is as long as you have the ability to infinitely divide that unit, then the value flows to those who create value, which is how the world should be, in my opinion. All right, we'll keep going here. Units cannot be printed to bail out banks, governments, or corporations. New units only come from scheduled block rewards, which is approximately every 10 minutes. And if you're not providing real world energy to the network, you have no chance of winning a block. That's what a block reward is. You contribute physical energy to the network in the form of electricity, which helps secure the network. You have a chance to get rewarded in Bitcoin, the block reward. Whereas units of illusion can be created rapidly in large quantities for bailouts, deficit financing, and crisis stimulus. And how many of those have we seen in the last 5 years? This basically has robbed baby boomers, of about 20 years of their life. The fact that they can do this, it robbed 20 years from baby boomers. And I just watched a movie called In Time. I don't know if you guys and girls have seen that before, but it basically, the currency is time. And in that movie, based on how much money they printed in the last 4 years in the US, they would have essentially stolen 20 years off of baby boomers' life, which is pretty sad. The network is decentralized, which means that no single entity can censor or reverse valid transactions. Pretty important, I would say. And in the unit of the illusionary network, it is centralized around central banks, commercial banks, and payment processors, and they have the ability to block accounts or payments. Do you think we would ever live in a free world if they have the ability to decide the winners and the losers? They decide whose accounts are good to go and which ones are forbidden or blocked. Think that'd ever be a free world? And that's essentially what they've weaponized. In the US, they say that people have freedom of speech. And maybe they don't get arrested, but because of banks, they call it Operation Choke Point, where they basically just cut somebody's bank account off. They use the private entities versus the government to do it. And once you cut somebody's bank account off, you essentially cut off their oxygen. So in the freedom units, nobody can do that. Nobody can censor your transactions or reverse it. And in this one, they can, and they definitely use these tools all the time. Freedom units are native to the internet. They settle directly on the global blockchain without a need for banks. Whereas units of illusion, they move through the legacy banking rails, which is known as the SWIFT system, with multiple intermediaries. And with multiple intermediaries, not only do they all have a chance to block or stop your payment, but they also everybody wants a fee from that. Last episode, we talked about micropayments. That's why micropayments would never work on the internet in fiat, because too many people are in between. There's too many hands looking for a percentage of that. You can't send 10 cents online in fiat. You just can't, because there's too many intermediaries. So in the units of freedom, the settlement is final once the transaction has been confirmed. With the units of illusion, the settlements may be reversed at many different layers, including chargebacks, bank recalls, or court orders. I don't know how many people own businesses here. I don't know how many people own small businesses, but if you've ever sent somebody a product and then a couple months later, they do a chargeback and get their money back, so they get your product and they get the money back, it's one of the biggest scams. And there's billions, if not trillions of dollars that small businesses lose every year because of chargebacks. So Bitcoin, you can't do that. It's final. Settlement is final. Or sorry, I mean freedom units, not Bitcoin. The freedom units, monetary base and transactions are all public and can be audited by anyone in real time, like I showed you on the mempool there. You can go through any block since the inception of Bitcoin, the Genesis block, and you can look at every block, you can look at every transaction, you can look at every address associated with those transactions. Anyone can do it. in real time. Whereas the illusionary system, they are reported periodically and can be revised, and the details are often opaque, and I put at best. Because again, the central banks, the Federal Reserve, which was created in 1913, we'd had central banks in history before. Some of them have actually been shut down. But the latest one here, the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and has no reserves, was created in 1913. And so they report their M2, their M1s, all their money supply, but they've never been audited in 111 years. Could you imagine? Let me bring this up again. I want to make a point of this. Could you imagine if we had something like this for the Federal Reserve, where you could look at every day since 1913 and you could see every unit, you'd know exactly how many have been issued, where they all went to, even if we didn't know the exact person or the entity that it went to, if we could just see every transaction. Could you imagine how different that would be? And on the flip side, we've never seen one single audit, not even like an attempt to be audited before. It's nuts. It's insane that they've been able to do this for over 100 years now. So the units can be held. You can actually hold these freedom units in self-custody via private keys, allowing full control without a third party. Speaking of sovereignty, I don't know how you could get much more sovereign than that. The units can be held in self-custody via private keys, allowing full control without a third party. Whereas on the flip side, units are held at custodial institutions reliant on banks or payment apps. So you need the permission, essentially. And you might say, well, Jor, I can hold physical cash in my hand. Yeah, but you're still getting debased by the second. You still have you have no idea how many dollars exist. So that's one very small part of this where you might say physical cash is equal. And I would agree with that. I love physical cash. But it doesn't change the fact that there's still a centralized entity issuing those dollars. Freedom units cannot be frozen unless you have the private key. So no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much trouble you're in, nobody can take your freedom units from you unless they have the private key. Do you understand how powerful that is? Whereas on the flip side, they can definitely be frozen and have been. Not has been. Am I drunk? Somebody asked if I was drinking before one of the videos I made the other day when I had a hard time differentiating between 0.01 and 0.1. Pretty silly me. Can definitely be frozen and have been used to weaponize and force compliance. Every day people's bank accounts get seized if they're doing something that the overlords don't like. Freedom units. Security is anchored to proof of work, physical energy, whereas security relies on legal systems and bank security guards. And of course, I would say a very poor. Everybody there's another FUD being thrown around quantum, that the Bitcoin network's going to get hacked. If the Bitcoin network ever gets hacked, that means that the SWIFT banking system and all these banking networks, they would have been hacked 2 years ago, 2 years before that. So it's all just a facade. So the last 2 years, the freedom units, the addresses are pseudonymous. They're not tied to real world identities, which means that any person on the planet, as long as they have access to internet connection, they can download a wallet. They can create themselves their own bank account without their legal name or passport or birth certificate. So even though all the transactions and everything are public, the addresses are private. Whereas in the fiat system, all the accounts are subject to verification of identity per KYC and anti-money laundering rules. So it's like, this is what I mean. It's like, well, Bitcoin's transparent because there's a blockchain. Bitcoin's not private. That's what people say. Bitcoin's not private. It's too public. And it's like, well, yeah, it provides transparency to the people, the entities who need to be transparent. There's also very private ways that you can use Bitcoin, including the Lightning Network, the Liquid Network, beyond coin joins. I don't recommend them, but they're available. But with fiat, with the units of illusion here, we know 100% of every transaction you ever make is verified. You gave away all your information to the bank that's facilitating that transaction there. And the last one here, the units require real world energy to create, whereas units in illusion, they can be printed out of thin air. All they need to do, add zeros. Add zeros to the spreadsheet. Hope no one notices. And if I sound like I'm being a little bit harsh on this system, it's because I am. It is absolutely despicable that humans have allowed this to happen for over 100 years. These aren't even comparisons. Like, this shouldn't even be a conversation that we're having here. It is so obvious that this is what we should be using. And this tool is available today. This isn't some like theory that might happen. This is here today. So what can you do? That's the next question here. What can you do about it? Well, hopefully if you're watching the show live, you already have some of these freedom units. But what I would suggest is, like, for anybody who might be watching this who's not really familiar with Bitcoin, what you can do is you can just think of the units of illusion, dollars, as like short-term funding for your life. Because yes, we still live in a world that operates in this system for now. We won't always, but for now we do. So think of these units as something that you can go buy a sandwich with, you can pay your mortgage with, you can do whatever with. Like, this is your short-term obligations. That's what you can use these units for. But anything past that, anything outside of that, should be stored in freedom units. So in other words, I would say just like keep whatever you need in, and again, at some point in the lessons here, we're going to talk about why you'd want to hold gold instead of real estate, or instead of gold, or instead of the S&P 500. We're going to get to all that, but this is just strictly Bitcoin versus fiat dollars. So you should keep like a balance of like your short-term obligations, because again, kind of what I mentioned there is that this asset is incredibly misunderstood, which means it's going to be incredibly volatile because nobody knows how to properly value it yet. So anything that you have short-term coming up, yes, you should absolutely store that in dollars, because that's still what the majority of the world functions in. Will they forever? No. But they are right now. So your short-term obligations should be stored in fiat. I'm not telling you to just sell all your dollars, close all your bank accounts, go all into Bitcoin. That's insane. Although there's people that have done it and have done very successfully with it, but that's not where we are right now. And then anything past that, like let's say you have 2 or 3 months worth of dollars that if something came up, you could pay in dollars, because you completely remove the volatility from that then. But anything past that, you should 100% be storing in Bitcoin. Without question. For all of these reasons, you're not going to be debased. Nobody can take it from you. You're no longer supporting the system that makes no sense anymore. Nobody can stop your transactions. Nobody can seize it from you. And you don't need to be a complete anarchist to understand the power of why that is, right? And the other thing too is, like, there's a lot of people around the world who are worried about they might have to leave their country because their governments have gone fully insane. And it's like, try doing that with your dollars. Try doing that with either a bank account or more than $10,000 worth of cash. You just won't be able to leave. That value that you've accrued throughout your journey will stay in that country that you're leaving. Whereas with Bitcoin, if you understand it, you can actually store your Bitcoin right here. And when you land, you can restore that and you can spend that however you want to. So you might actually had a conversation with somebody on the weekend who was, if we go back to our little, who not everyone is ready to be saved by Bitcoin yet. I knew that that person was sovereign. I knew that that person was awakened. I knew that she was empowered. And so the conversation for me was very easy. It ended with, do you think $1,000 is enough? Do you think that was your question after we chatted for a while? She said, do you think $1,000 is enough? And I said, yeah. Like, number one, once you get 1,000, once you start learning about Bitcoin, that's going to turn into 2, then 5, then 10. Then you're going to start trading everything you have for Bitcoin. But $1,000 is a good starting point. But the other thing too is, like, if you actually do the math, the average, like if Bitcoin was perfectly distributed from day one, the average person, I think, would have 250,000 sats, which you could buy for like $230 US today. So if you had $1,000 kicking around in a bank account that you've been saving for something, or you just don't know what to do with it, you just put it into Bitcoin. You have 4 times the amount that the average person is going to have on day one. And then again, you keep learning. You don't have to store it yourself. You don't have to know how to take self-custody day one. You can leave it in. I wouldn't recommend a Bitcoin ETF. I think that's a bad place to start. But you can leave it in like a ShakePay here in Canada, where you just you send them dollars, they give you Bitcoin, and you store it there for a while. ShakePay in Canada, or River in the US. And you can just leave it there. You can leave it there for 3 months, 4 months, whatever. Eventually you want to take self-custody out of that, because that's the real superpower of Bitcoin, is that you can actually take self-custody of that yourself. But this is a good place to start. It's something. It's not where you want to be, but it's something. So that would be the first step. Is I think this is a really good resource too if you're looking to have conversations with people. Like, when you look at it this way, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't even make sense that we're still using this system. But again, it's enforced by weapons. That's why we're still using it, because it's enforced by weapons. But there's not a weapon on this planet that could take out Bitcoin. And once you understand that, that's a whole new unlock of your perspective on money and the future. So I'll have, if you're watching this later, I'll have links to both ShakePay and River in the pin comment, and I'll throw those in the chat right now for anybody who's watching. They're both great. And actually, one thing we do every day on the show is we do these smash averages, where we pretty much pre-fund our account, whether it's on ShakePay or on River. We send like $50, $100, $150 every week, and we just buy small amounts of Bitcoin every day. That's the best way to do it. And then once you get to a sizable UTXO or amount, like 150,000 sats, 200,000 sats, then you move it to your cold storage if you have the ability to do that. So that's been lesson number 8. When you look at this, and that's why I titled the show today, how could anyone ignore this? How could anybody possibly ignore this, what's happening right now? And it's kind of good, again, because I said it's very misunderstood. It's very volatile. But the reason for that is because nobody knows what this asset is. And so because nobody knows what this asset is, that doesn't mean that you're wrong about it or that you made a bad decision to get into Bitcoin. That just means that the rest of the world hasn't caught up to you yet, which equals massive, massive opportunity. Because this network cannot be stopped. The freedom units cannot be stopped. This one is already dead. We just haven't had a funeral for it yet. So that's why when we say trading dollars for sats is the deal of a lifetime, that's why. Because the only reason why you can still trade X amount of dollars for X amount of sats is because nobody understands what this thing is yet. But they will, or they won't, but they'll be too late by then. So that's lesson 8. Hope you enjoyed that one. Let me save that. Save that and take a sip here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to talk about a couple different things. I got a couple things to share. I want to get to this super chat here, though. Oh, Trevor, look at that. $9.99. Wow. Thank you, Trevor. So smash the like button. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. And look at this. Dean said, I sent you a zap via Strike. Okay, well, we're going to check on the zaps here right away, too. The Freedom units rolling in. I'm actually going to start with Nostr, though. I want to see who's over there. See where my Nostr friends are. Oh, not a whole lot of chats over there, but there are people. And we got a couple zaps. Look at that. Josh, 999 sats. Freedom units. Cheers, Josh. From, is it WorkSave Bitcoin? I don't know if that's still your channel or not. That was your channel. But cheers, Josh. Appreciate that, buddy. So the first part of the show is always the lesson. Then we get into some, the interactive, the fun part of the show, I find. The interactive. Maybe if there's some trolls in the chat today, we can have some battles, or we can just answer some questions, whatever it is. If you have any concerns, if you have any questions about really anything, that's what this is for. Just an open conversation. So if you're here and you got something, throw it in the chat and we'll get to it eventually here. I also see my man Forrest. My man Forrest from the Maple Bitcoin. My brother sent 21 sats, said V for V. Thank you, Forrest. Appreciate that, buddy. Make sure if you're not yet, you go subscribe to Maple Bitcoin. Actually, I got to share a couple different links here. Maple Bitcoin for sure. That's Forrest, Rajat, and myself. And Forrest channel is called Bitcoin Not Crypto. And it's funny, if you actually looked at the comparison that we just did between fiat and Bitcoin, it's almost identical. If you were comparing Bitcoin, speaking of Bitcoin, not crypto, it's almost identical of Bitcoin versus crypto. It's the same kind of shit where you can create tokens without any energy. There's a centralized party, issuers, a CEO, a company behind it. The creation schedule is not known. It's pretty much a carbon copy. That's why crypto is basically just an extension of fiat. Okay, so I'm going to share the River link here for anybody who's in the US. River is, I use Bitcoin well here, but I'm really, really bullish on River. I don't know which one I'd be. I'd probably be using both, but I just recommend, even if you have an exchange that you're using in the US right now, just give River a shot, man. They're the only company that I know of that's actually showing proof of reserves, which means that when you send them money, when you send them dollars, they're actually buying Bitcoin and holding it for you. They're not just keeping a big spreadsheet of who owes what and how many dollars we have versus how many Bitcoin versus how much we owe to the customers. It's like 1-to-1. They actually have more deposits than they have liabilities. They have more assets than they have liabilities. You can look at it, actually. It's kind of cool. And I really hope that all exchanges will do this one day. Where would I find this? But you can go to their website and you can see River Proof of Reserves. There it is right there. See? This is why I have zero issues recommending River and Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well actually doesn't hold anybody's Bitcoin, but River shows proof of reserves, which means River proves that we hold 100% of the Bitcoin deposits in full reserve. So you can see here that they have total assets of 24,246 Bitcoin, which means that's how much Bitcoin River actually owns. 24,246 Bitcoin. That's how much Bitcoin River actually holds the key to. So that's over 100%, because you can see here that their total liabilities, which is essentially when somebody sends them dollars, that's a liability to them because they take the dollars, but then they have a Bitcoin liability to that client or that customer. So they have 24,246 Bitcoin and 23,980 Bitcoin as their liabilities. And they do a monthly, I thought it was quarterly, but they're actually doing a monthly audit now. And all of their reserves have been more than 100%. So that's why I recommend using River. And again, even if you don't, even if you already have one that you're using, I would just encourage you to try out River. And here's one for ShakePay too for my Canadian friends out there. It's just a place where you can actually buy Bitcoin, convert your dollars to Bitcoin without having to take self-custody. And again, don't get me wrong. Like I spend all my days making videos, talking to people about self-custody. But the reality is just not everybody's ready for that yet. So if you use something like River or ShakePay, they'll actually hold it on your behalf until you get your security figured out. And what was the other one there? Maple, I wanted to share. Maple Bitcoin. I'm sure you've all seen Rajat and Forrest kicking around on YouTube, but that's a show that that's a channel I have with them. Two of the best guys in YouTube, man. I'm pretty fortunate to be sharing circles with them. Maple Bitcoin. There we go. I'll throw it in the chat there for you. And if anybody over in Zapstream wants a link for either of those, just let me know and I'll put them in the chat there for you. Okay. So hello to everybody over on Nostr. We got 17 people over there right now. God bless. But who is in YouTube? And what are they talking about? Let's get to that here. We'll do our smash buy right away. We'll give away some Bitcoin right away, but we'll start chipping away at some chats here first. Nav's here. Good morning, Nav, or good afternoon, Nav. Praetorian, one of our Bitcoin journeymen, big supporter of the channel. VHF is here. Hello, VHF. Praetorian calls out VHF. Love to see that. Praetorian says slow to transition as well. Yeah, it's a little bit of friction there, but I would say it's worth it. If you enjoy these shows, you'll love the daily shows. Buck 52, Senior Gringer Poppy. Bitcoin is down 25% in 3 months. Love to see that. Is Bitcoin or gold a better investment option? I would say that Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold. Let me put that on paper here so you can see what I'm saying. I would say that Bitcoin is infinitely. It's a good question, actually. I want to talk about this quickly. What's a better option, gold or Bitcoin? Because gold's been ripping. Gold's been absolutely ripping. Gold's outperformed Bitcoin for the last year, maybe 2 years. So let's take a quick look at this. My opinion there is that Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold. And Bitcoin is 1/10 of the cost of gold. If you look at them 1-to-1. So that's a pretty good opportunity, I would say. Again, this is just my opinion, but if you look at this objectively, I think you would agree with me. But Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold, while Bitcoin is 1/10 of the cost of gold, 1-to-1. So there's this chart. You can look it up online if you want to, but it compares Bitcoin to gold. And every line favors Bitcoin, whether it's transportability, verifiability, all these different things. You can go line by line and you can look at it, and every characteristic favors Bitcoin, except for one, which is basically proof of concept. Because gold, so all characteristics favor Bitcoin. All of them. Every single one, except this one, proof of concept. Because gold has been around for tens of thousands of years, or I don't know how much it is. We'll just say thousands of years. That's the only thing that Bitcoin has that gold has that Bitcoin doesn't. And the biggest thing for me, though, and this is why I say Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold, is because gold is pretty scarce. It was the most scarce asset before Bitcoin. Well, I shouldn't say that, but in terms of like big market cap assets, gold was the scarcest before Bitcoin. So gold is pretty scarce, but Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. And we haven't seen that play out yet. We haven't seen the scarcity aspect of Bitcoin kick in yet. But this is essentially like, and this is what we talked about today, comparing it to fiat. This is a 2% annual target. That's how much new gold is created per year, which makes you think, like, who gets to decide that? Why is it always 2%? Especially when you have like China, El Salvador, random parts of Africa, they're finding like trillions of dollars worth of gold. So where does that go? I don't know. But anyways, they have a 2% annual target, whereas Bitcoin is already below 2% per year inflation, trending to zero. So by the year 2140, Bitcoin will have a 0% inflation rate. And so there's a massive, massive difference. And I would say infinitely different for an asset that's pretty scarce like gold and an asset that's absolutely scarce like Bitcoin. And this is something that another one of my favorite channels, Jerry says. Jerry asks, what percentage of the network, of the gold network, do you own? And it'd be the same as fiat. If you had $1 million in fiat, this was one of our lessons, actually. I think it was lesson, where was that? 5? Right here. This is absolute scarcity here in Bitcoin. This is the magic number. 2.1 quadrillion sats. That's all that will ever exist. Absolute scarcity. And so whether this is gold or fiat or really anything else, every time they create new units, your percentage of that network goes down. Your ownership of that network goes down. It only goes down because they're always making more of it. And as technology improves, they're going to find more gold. And we really have no idea how much gold's out there. But the better we become and the more technology we have, the more gold that we can find and the more diluted that you're going to get over time in gold. So this is fiat, this is gold, this is stocks, this is literally everything else. Whereas Bitcoin, because of this number here, because we have absolute scarcity, your ownership will only go up forever. Your ownership in that network can only go up forever. So if you had one unit in this system and Ricky Ricardo lost the keys to his Bitcoin, and all of a sudden now we have 997 units, your ownership percentage goes up. But in this case, if they're printing new dollars or they're finding more gold, your ownership of that network continues to go down, if you even know what it is. So that's the key there. And it's like Peter Schiff thought he won the debate last week in Dubai or wherever that was. But like until this question is solved, until this question / problem is solved in gold, it's not even a conversation, which is how do you know the gold is real? And the other part too, how do you trust that they have your gold? Right? Because so there's a big problem with physical gold, which is how do you know it's real? And as technology improves, they're going to start making gold in a lab. It's going to look identical to gold. So how do you know it's real? But the other thing here too, this is for physical gold. This is a constraint, and this is digital gold. They want to tokenize gold now. But if they want to tokenize gold, you have to trust somebody out there that they actually have the gold in the vault and that the gold is real. So until these two questions or problems are solved in gold, Bitcoin is infinitely superior to gold, and you can buy it right now for 1/10 of the cost. Good question, though. That's I'm glad we kind of got to get into that. That's probably going to be a future lesson, and actually probably gave me some curriculum there. Kev's here. Kev is here. Good morning, Kev. Or good afternoon, I should say. Sorry. Stick to both to better diversify. Where can I get sats with a credit card? I don't know. I think you'd probably have to take out a cash advance on the credit card. Praetorian says, Jor, the gratitude you showed everyone in and outside of our community is very motivational. I dub thee the Bitcoin Reverend. Praetorian, you're gonna make me blush here, man. It's good though. It's good. We got I really believe that we're just kind of getting started here with the channel and with everything. And it's really, I'm beyond grateful to be part of it in just a very, very small way. So I appreciate you saying that, Praetorian. Thank you. Very much of a stretch, but I still appreciate it. Okay, so we got a couple zaps here that I didn't report. Yeah, we got one from Dean. He sent 202 sats. Thank you, Dean. He said, hey, George, Dean from Australia. Thank you, Dean. So yeah, I didn't even mention that yet along the way here, but if you are a Bitcoiner and you have some sats on Lightning and you want to support the channel here, you can do that either with Arnie's QR code on the screen there, or you can send to my wallet, which is what these folks have been sending to jor@rizful.com. Okay, what else we got here? Bach52 says, I'm here to battle trolls and fight off bots. Nice. Appreciate that, man. When 200K, I don't know. But I would say that anytime you can buy Bitcoin below $10 million, you got a deal. People Libertario zapped 21 sats and said, hello from Argentina. Wow. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Peepo. BitBilly. Hello, good people. Hello, BitBilly. Good to see you, man. Haven't seen BitBilly. Actually, I saw him here last week. BitBilly's not a big Rumble guy either, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. We still get to see BitBilly once a week here. Boomers hate Bitcoin. Yeah, for the most part. Not all, though. Solar says, I think altcoin fatigue has something to do with it. People think it's all a scam by grouping Bitcoin in because it's the OG. Absolutely true. There's that. They definitely associate Bitcoin with the crypto nonsense, for one. But also they think that they need $100,000 to buy Bitcoin because of the unit bias. They don't understand that you can buy $2 worth of Bitcoin. And, I would blame it on education, but like I'm doing my best here to try to educate people on sats. And I think it'll catch on. Like it's one of those things. It just takes time. Like it's nothing that we need to be frustrated with or anything. It just takes time. Boomers didn't like iPhones either. Exactly. So this would have been probably from the early part of the lesson here. Says, didn't something happen to Bitcoin? Yeah, exactly. That's like the famous quote for somebody who knows nothing about Bitcoin. Oh, I saw Bitcoin's price was down. So not only do you get like a couple texts from people, but if you have a YouTube channel and the price is down, the comments are just full of the where's that image that I had here the other day that I had in my video? These guys just love coming out to play when the price of Bitcoin's down. I had somebody come into my comment section a couple weeks ago and said, hey, Jor, I told you, I made a comment 6 months ago that the price of Bitcoin was going to be down in November this year. Like just speaking of, I'm going to not swear. I'm trying my best not to swear. But just like, this was the quote that I had there. Let me make a new spreadsheet here. This is the point here. And I put this in my last video too. Pessimists get to be right. Optimists get to be rich. And Bitcoiners get to be both. So pessimists, guys like the actually guys in the comments and the people who think that because Bitcoin's down this month, that Bitcoin's going away, they get to be right for like a week or a month or even a year. But they're sitting on the sidelines. They're wasting all their time and energy in the comment section of a YouTube channel. Whereas optimists, they don't get caught up in the weeds. They don't get lost in the trees. They're looking at the forest. They're looking at the bigger picture, and what's coming. And they get to be rich because of it. And Bitcoiners in the long term get to be both right and rich. So yeah, that's a common one. Trevor says, like the old Mark Dice videos where he offered the choice of free 100-ounce silver versus a Hershey's chocolate bar. Most chose the chocolate. Nutty. Quite a few coins are lost as well, yes. Boomers slept on Bitcoin super hard. Not all of them. Gen X definitely was interested, still is. Tony says, I didn't sleep, I was chasing a dog. Tony says, actually, I bought my first stock in oil in 2021 and pulled it out and seen Doge for 5 cents one day. Years later, somebody told me Bitcoin only. I learned a lot for knowing nothing. Nice. Was I there for that? I don't know what happened there. My StreamYard site just crashed. That was very strange. Was I on the video the whole time though? Huh. Not everyone is ready for freedom. True. That's a good point. Not everyone's. That's absolutely true. Tony says, I wonder if I should use Britello to pull home equity. I need to get 1 Bitcoin at least. What I would say to that, Tony, is if you have the ability to pull equity out of your home and buy Bitcoin with it, I 100% would. The other part of that is that I need to get to 1 Bitcoin. I don't think that that's an accurate statement. I think that it really depends on your timeline. I made a couple of videos this week actually talking about retiring on Bitcoin or having enough Bitcoin. And it all really depends on how old you are, what your income is. Are you still getting paid, or you have a pension, or do you have nothing coming in? And also, what kind of lifestyle do you have? A lot of people don't need 1 Bitcoin, especially if you're a younger guy. I would say that if you're a baby boomer, you should have at least 1 Bitcoin. That's kind of my unpopular take. I think that every single Bitcoiner who has any sense of anything should have at least 1 Bitcoin. And if that means taking equity out of your house to buy some Bitcoin, 100%. Like, just, I want you to just think about that for a second. As a baby boomer or somebody who's older, like let's say you're 70, 75, 80 years old, and you're like, well, I kind of missed the boat on Bitcoin here, so I'm just going to ignore it. Or you have half a Bitcoin, you think that's enough. And if you give it to your kids, I'm sure they're going to be pumped about it. But it's like, what's the worst case for you? You have a house that's probably paid off or mostly paid off, and you want to take out a small fraction of that and go buy Bitcoin. What's the worst thing that happens? Your kids have to pay a little bit more against your mortgage when you pass that house down to them. That's the worst case. All baby boomers who have any sense of anything should have at least 1 Bitcoin. Because again, you have equity in your house. You probably have a large balance in your stock portfolio, which is a sinking ship. You might have some other assets. You have to get to 1 Bitcoin if you're a baby boomer. If you respect your future generations at all. You're not going to retire off it. You're not going to sell the Bitcoin and live off it. But that's for your kids and their kids and their kids. No brainer. Especially at this, well, I shouldn't even say that because we're planning this out very long term here. But especially after Bitcoin goes from $120,000 exchange rate to 80,000. Even for me, and that's something actually going back to that. I want to talk about this a little bit more because I've talked about this on my daily channel, but I feel like there's a lot of people here who just don't watch the daily show. But I kind of came to a conclusion recently where I just decided that I don't care if I ever pay my mortgage off. Kind of crazy to say, because that's like, as illiterate as people are in the financial world, that's like the one thing that everybody wants to do is pay off their mortgage. And I've come to a point now where I actually don't care if I ever pay a dollar off my mortgage. I don't. Because let me show you this. So your cost of borrowing right now. Let's say that you did have home equity in your house. So you pull out $100,000 to buy Bitcoin. So your cost of borrowing is about 5%. It might be lower than that, depending on where you are. The compound growth of BTC has been 50%. I think it'll be more than that in the future. Over this next decade, I think it'll be higher than that. And don't at me and say, George, even this year. I don't care about this year. Again, you're looking at the trees here. I'm looking at the forest. So the last 10 years, the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin, has been 50%. So this is basically like your outflows. This is basically like your inflow. That's how you should look at it. That's a pretty big spread there. You're paying 5% to make 50%. The key here, do it over a long term. So it pretty much gets rid of all volatility there. And the reason why I have no issues with always having a mortgage is because that's real estate in itself. Home ownership is a complete illusion too, because you don't actually own your house. Even if you pay off your mortgage, you don't own your house. Don't believe me? Don't pay your property taxes next year. See if you still own your house. So it's like, why would I ever pay it off to save myself 5% a month when I can put it in an asset that's making 50% a year? I'm going to forever be pulling equity out of my house and buying Bitcoin with it because it's a way better trade. Especially if you have a long-term lens. Like don't do that and then look at your Bitcoin price every day and be like, oh shit, I made a huge mistake here. It's a good song. What am I listening to here? No, I should have known. I thought that was Kip. Never heard the song before though. Anyways. What else we got here? We need to own more than institutions. Keep stacking. That was where I actually wanted to start the show today. Man. Tony, you're in my head today, man. It's probably for the best that I didn't talk about that because I know that I would get very worked up. But I'll just give you the quick Coles notes of it. This world has been controlled by a small group of people for at least 111 years, minimum. Much longer than that probably, but we'll just go with recency bias. The world has been controlled by a small group of people for 111 years. We know that. And we have this chance, this asset called Bitcoin. And instead of like taking advantage of this and trying to accumulate these sats at these prices before all the institutions are able to buy them, people are spending their time in the YouTube comments telling other Bitcoiners that they're wrong about Bitcoin. And it's like, I see, that's why I didn't. It's probably for the best that I didn't talk about it right off the hop. Merchant. Is that Mert? I think that's Mert. That profile pic looks familiar. Learn self-custody. Do not buy strategy, iBet, etc. Only focus on your own keys. That's the play. Support freedom, not Wall Street. Both these comments, bang on. I'm going to dump the jade, move up to the cold card. Good man, Tony. For Tony and anybody out there who's looking to get a new cold card, you can save yourself 5% here with this link from CoinKite. And actually, you know what? We're doing a draw next week for a cold card queue on the Daily Show. We had one of the community members, Sats and Sunsets. They donated $250 worth of Bitcoin or of gift card to the channel to do a Christmas giveaway. So we're doing $250 worth of CoinKite gift card, which you can use for a cold card queue, and we're doing that draw next Tuesday, the 23rd. So I'll put that link in the chat too if you do want to. So what you can do is you can actually get your name in the draw if you show up for one day, and you can also get a shout out for the next 88 lessons here for the new subscribers over on Rumble. But yes, that's a great idea. Not that I don't like jade. I just think that it's the same as like gold and Bitcoin. It's like gold's good. Like it's fine, but like Bitcoin's far superior to it, just like jade versus cold card. What about Chris Dugan, who said UTXOs will hold the world to hostage? I don't even know what that means. UTXOs will hold the world to hostage? Dugan says everyone should own one ETH. If you want to see here, Ricky, I'll show you the difference between Bitcoin and ETH. Let me show you here. You can pretty much do this exact same thing here that I did with comparing Bitcoin and dollars. You could pretty much do that exact same thing with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Literally. Go through each one of these and see which one's different than Ethereum. It's all the same. That's why crypto and Ethereum is the mother a-hole of the cryptos. But Ethereum crypto is just an extension of fiat. It's all the exact same things. It's the exact same things. And at one point, Ethereum couldn't be printed out of thin air. You actually had to add energy to the network in order to get new coins and get a portion of that. But since they switched from proof of work to proof of stake, even Ethereum, it's just thin air now. So definitely do not listen to Ricky here or Dugan, whoever the hell Chris Dugan is. Doogie sounds like he needs some more time in Bitcoin. Tony says, I have some stuck in a blue wall with a jade straight from Robinhood. It says one input missing transaction something, but it shows 52 outputs, 2 inputs. Is this considered UTXO that's screwed? I don't know, man. That's way too much information for a YouTube comment. Yeah, mining on the moon for gold. Macro Stiff Productions. That's a nice name. Macro Stiff Productions. I'm here, brother, working in the background. Cheers to you. I wish you guys could hear the music that I'm listening to here. Man, Noster's dead today. Noster, you good? Noster, you good? Sad. We had like 35 people for the Daily Show on Noster. I guess Noster's tired of me. Rich says, hey, George, give Arnie a rub from Ireland. Handsome dog. Arnie boy, he's around here somewhere. Okay, what do we got? Hour and a half in. We'll probably do another, I'd say we'll be here for another 20 minutes. So if you got 20 minutes to spare, stick with us. We got a couple more things. If you have any questions or discussions that you want to bring up, I'll probably wrap her at about 2 hours here. And I want to do a couple more things. We don't know how much gold is in the universe. We know how much Bitcoin is in the universe. Exactly. That's why it's infinitely superior. Infinitely. Dean says there was an inflation bug in block 74638 where someone generated 184 billion Bitcoin. 5 hours later, Satoshi and the boys had to do an emergency hard fork version 0.3.10, a chain split. So my question Is the supply fixed by coders or fixed by social consensus humans? It would be fixed by social consensus. But it's the incentives, right? It's the incentives of whether or not you want to change Bitcoin or not. It's like we talked about before. It's like would the supply of Bitcoin ever increase? Because we have the ability to increase it. If somebody said, if there was like a really good Bitcoiner on YouTube and he rallied everybody up and he's like, we're gonna increase the supply for the world because we need more coins because there's too many coins that are lost, and he got everybody to agree with it, you could change it. You could increase the supply of Bitcoin. So it's definitely a social consensus. Humans, yep. But it's like anybody in their right mind wouldn't want to dilute themselves. Because again, going back to this whole thing here, where was that? That was on, I think, lesson 5. Yeah. Going back to this thing here is like Bitcoin. If you're holding one of these units of Bitcoin, that could be 10 Satoshis, that could be 10 Bitcoin. But as long as you have some units of this network, your ownership will only go up, because it doesn't make sense for the people who hold these units, what you're talking about there, the social consensus. It doesn't make sense for them to want to vote to increase this number here. Because if we did a vote and increased by another 1,000 units, watch what happens to your supply or your ownership of the network. It gets cut in half. Why would anybody in their right mind vote for that, for them to cut their ownership of the network in half? It just doesn't make any sense. So that's why the Bitcoin will never exceed this number here, the magic number of 2 quadrillion, 99 trillion, 999 billion, 997 million, 690,000 sats. It'll never exceed that, because nobody in their right mind would vote to increase the supply, to dilute themselves, to decrease their ownership. Because if it stays how it is today, your ownership of the network will only go up. Because if Dean loses his private keys, or his dog ate the recovery phrase and he locked himself out of his device, your ownership in the network just went up. As long as you have units in this network and you protect those and you don't lose your keys, your ownership of that network, and this network is going to turn into the unit of account for the world. So this is essentially like your ownership of the world. Might sound crazy in 2025, but that's what's going to happen for a lot of reasons. Should save that. So yeah, definitely social consensus there. I went blank. Okay. I blanked out, you might say. I blanked out, you might say. Hodl Strong Brothers, love from Germany. What's the biggest threat to Bitcoin's decentralization? Good question. Biggest threat to Bitcoin's decentralization. Probably, this is going to be something like a crazy thing, but my theory on this is that at some point in the near future, governments and centralized entities are going to realize that they can't stop Bitcoin. If they haven't already, I'm sure that they have. So with that in mind, like one tool that they've been using is FUD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, throwing these nonsense stories at Bitcoin, labeling it, basically programming people to hate Bitcoin. But the other tools that they're going to use in the future, I believe, are going to be this. I think this is the biggest one. I think that they're going to run up the price of Bitcoin. I think they're going to run up the price of Bitcoin, and there's a bunch of Bitcoiners out here who don't have their green lights on yet, and they're going to sell all their sats because they doubled or tripled or quadrupled their return on Bitcoin. And all those sats that were once in the hands of individuals are going to flow to the institutions. Because right now, individuals actually hold about 68, 69, 70% of the Bitcoin supply. Individuals, like people like us. Of course, for the last couple of years, since BlackRock started buying Bitcoin, it's gone from like 80% to 75% to 70%. And those drains are just being sucked from individuals to institutions. And so I think one trick that they're actually going to use is they're going to try to just blow up the price of Bitcoin and basically force people, make it crazy not to sell their Bitcoin. And so then they'll be even more. And they won't just be like one thing. They might do that every 5 years or 10 years or as long as they're around. And eventually that Bitcoin is going to flow from individuals to institutions. And then we're going to be right back to where we were. So that's my, I think another thing that they're going to do is they're going to remove capital gains, which is going to incentivize people to sell. Because it's the same thing. It's like, how can we get these people to sell their Bitcoin? That's a question that they're going to have. How can we move that number of 70% owned by individuals to like 10%? That's what they want. And then it's all going to be tracked. It's all going to be KYC'd. It's all going to be the exact same system that we have now. Except even in that system, I mean, then they might vote to, increase the supply. But the difference would still be that they can't print Bitcoin. So even in that world where Bitcoin's fully captured, it's still better than the fiat system. Calming floating melodies. Look at that. Nature music. I might check that out. Need a little bit of calming in my life, especially on Tuesdays. Says, bro, been listening to your videos and thanks for your knowledge. Nice. Thanks for the comment. Appreciate that. Do us Americans sound different, y'all Canadians? I'm sure we do. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I have my Bitcoin in cold storage, but I'm so lazy to move it to my passport I got 1 year ago. What's it in now? Like a Trezor or a Ledger? Don't be lazy, man. That's the last thing you want to be in Bitcoin is lazy. Oh, what's this song? I like this. Give him hell, boy. I'm going to post, I'm going to bookmark that one. Give him hell, boy. James Johnson. Like that one. Add to playlist here. One of these days, I don't know if people care about this, but this channel is going to turn into a radio station. It's going to be the very first radio station that went from digital to analog. We're going to be 88.8 SATS FM. It's either going to be 88.8 SATS FM or 88.8 Freedom FM. I don't know yet. Price went down in the last month, kept that way for 1 year. Therefore, we, retailer, can stack more Satoshis. We want more people owning Bitcoin than institutions. Yes, 100%. Also scary to own more than one coin? No. Oh, move one coin. Also scary to move one coin? Yeah, well, of course. Good God. Buy sats, buy dogs, sorted. True. That's all you need. Nah, I shouldn't say that. You need to have kids too. Bitcoin doesn't mean much unless you have some kids to pass it down to. I can't get Arnie to spend his sats. Bitcoin, not crypto. There he is right there. Back streaming on YouTube. No, we're not on YouTube, are we? Is this YouTube? No. Yeah, it is. Forrest, we do these shows every week, once a week on YouTube. This is the 8th one we've done. This is number 8 out of 88. So the first 7 I did all on YouTube, but the daily shows I still only do on Rumble and on Nostr. So again, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, if you like the conversation today, you can see a very much more uncensored version of it, either using Nostr or Rumble. Every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. It's not on here, but it's like this kind of stuff, except a little bit more broad topics, I guess you'd say, less lessons, more F-bombs, and a lot more like conspiracy stuff and a lot of mindset focus. That's a big one. Wouldn't that be a hard fork, kind of what happened with Bitcoin Cash? Yep. I want to tell you something a little mind-blowing, but not enough letters to type it. Okay, looks like we got some info from Nav here. Okay, that's what I thought, Mert. Milo says the banks themselves are layer 2 providers of illusionary units. True. Yep. Like the commercial banks, not the central banks. Central banks are the creators of those currencies. Okay, what does Nav got here for us today? Actually, before we do that, I'm going to, I want to do our smash buy here. I want to do our smash buy. This is, if you do nothing else, if you take no other advice from me throughout the show, make sure you do this every week with us here. So where's our 88 lessons? Here we go. So the idea here, what are we at today? We are December 16th. We're going to do a little group smash buy here, a little smashy. So what we do here is we buy Bitcoin every week on the live stream here together. So November 25th, we spent 17 units of illusion and we got 13,719 units of freedom, also known as FUs. December 9th, last week, we spent 11 units of illusion. We got 8,375 units of freedom. Today, what are we at here? We're going to look at the 7-day price. We're going to see if we're up or we're down. And then we're going to base our decision on that part. So I'm going to look at CoinGecko. I'm going to look at, how do I look at 24 hours here? I did this last week too. I did it again. Did the exact same thing last week. I tried to hit 24 hours like I could change it. And then I got hung up here for 10 minutes. Frick. Okay, we're just going to search Bitcoin. How about that? Bitcoin. Okay, so 7 days we are up. Really? We must have been low last week. 87,000. I should actually bookmark the show here with that before we go any further. So the block height here is 928, 200 and some. 928, 210, we'll say. The exchange rate is 87,681. 681. That's the exchange rate of Bitcoin today. So which means we are actually up from last week. So I'm going to buy, we'll call it even. I think it's 1% up. So we'll call it even here. So I'm going to buy $11 worth again this week. Tuesdays seem like a pretty good day to buy based on what we've got here, 87,000, and we're up from last week. So what's that going to get me? It should give me a little bit less sats here for that amount. So what I encourage people to do here while we're doing this is buy some of your own and let us know how many dollars you spent and how many sats you got for that. And this is just to kind of show that there is no real price of Bitcoin. Every country, there's a different exchange rate. So I wish Scotty was here because he would show us that he spent like 20,000 Japanese units for what we spend here. So 59, okay. So I'm going to buy some Biddy here, $11. Oh, look at that. Oh, I thought it was a clean 9,000. How did we get more? That's what I mean. That doesn't make sense. We got more units, I guess. I don't know how we're up, but anyways, I'll take that. So today we spent 11 units of illusion and we got ourselves 9,002 units of freedom, FUs. And the point of this, we do this every day on the Visionary show every morning. We do it every day, every morning. And the point here is we want to compound this. It does not matter how much you buy. You could buy $2 worth every day, or $10 every week, or $2,000 every week. It does not matter how much you buy. It only matters that you buy. So the thesis here is that one day, one sat is going to equal $1. It's going to have the same purchasing power of $1. And look at that. Today you can spend $11 and get yourself $9,002 in the future. That's kind of the idea here. Not a matter of if, but when. So that's this is what we did last week, because we watched a video of Sailor saying the fact that nobody understands Bitcoin is why you're able to buy 9,000 sats, 9,000 units of freedom for $11. Because if Bitcoin was $10 million today, that $11 would have got us 110 sats, which means we basically got 76 times the amount, just because most people haven't figured out what this asset is yet. So if you participated in our weekly smash average here, We're going to keep track of this. I encourage you to keep track of this if you're going to keep showing up for the shows. Just write the date, write how much you spent in dollars and how much sats you got. You can do it on like a spreadsheet. You can keep it in a little notepad beside you. But I don't really like showing this, but we will here briefly. So this is our master tracker. If we go to our smash buy, this is all the buys we've been doing for the last couple of months. And we're going to do this for a long time. And the whole point here is that like very small actions done very consistently add up to something very large. So that's the idea with this. That's what we do on the daily show. We do daily buys. And on the weekly show, we're doing that as well. So that's why I say it does not matter how much you're buying. It only matters that you're buying. So let me go back to our 88 lessons there. So that's the one for this week. And we kind of base it off of this, right? It's kind of like an intelligent buy. Where Bitcoin's up, we buy a little bit less. When it's down, we buy more. Consistently. So that's the weekly smash buy. If you bought any on YouTube, Rumble, or Nostr, let me know and we will discuss. So I'll save that. Okay, look at this. Chad got 11,362 sats for $10 today. So 11,362 units of freedom for 10 units of illusion. It's a pretty good trade. So that must be in, I'm guessing, the US, Chad, for that exchange rate. Boris got, okay, what do we got here? 55,946 sats in exchange for 47 US dollars. 55,000 units of freedom in exchange for 47 units of illusion. Or a better way to think about it is Boris spent $47 today for $55,946 at some point in the future. Pretty good trade. Pretty good trade. Bitcoin Huddle says, just bought 1,142 freedom units on autopilot every day. At the same time, River is best, hardly any fees at all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're in the US and you haven't tried River yet, I really feel like you're missing out. River actually has something called Supercharge too, which is an automated version of this, where if the price is down, you can set it so it automatically buys like double. So if you have like a $2 DCA and the price is down, River will actually accelerate it. It's called supercharged DCA. So again, regardless of what exchange you use in the US, I would strongly suggest at least giving River a shot. Praetorian got 30,515 FUs in exchange for $27. Rich got, that can't be right, Rich. That'd be 12,000, right? 12,230 sats for 10 euros. Got to be. We got a fellow Canadian here. Your inappropriate uncle. Great name. He got 53,762 sats in exchange for 65 big time units of illusion. Canadian dollars, the biggest illusion out there. I shouldn't say that. But we have no gold. We have nothing. We have no gold. We have no military. We have a lot of natural resources. But great deal there. 65 Canadian dollars, 65 units of illusion in exchange for 53,000 units of freedom. Yeah, I figured, Rich. I figured you just missed a zero there. Bryce got 57. Look at this. The pound is holding strong. Got 57,349 units of freedom in exchange for 40 units of British illusion. And Tim Bainbridge got, what's that one? That one's also pounds, right? Spent 9.88 pounds and got 15,132 sats. And look at this. Big shout out to Bryce here. 10% premium. Nice. Very, very, very nice. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Look at this. Chad says, I'm gathering 2,000 slavery units on River so that the interest generates freedom units every month automatically. Man, I wish, actually, I think ShakePay has that option. I got to start doing that too. Because River actually pays you in sats interest. I think it's like 3 or 4% interest, and you get paid in Bitcoin if you keep some cash on there. Milo says the Great British Pound has been growing in power for the last 3 years over the US dollar, which is nuts. Or is it? I don't know. How are they doing that? That's what I want to know. I guess the US prints a lot of money. That's probably their biggest downfall because they have to export their dollars. That's their main production. But speaking of great exchanges here, especially for Canadians, if you're in Canada, this is by far the best exchange to be using. This is where I buy the majority of my Bitcoin. I do my smash buys with ShakePay just because I like to pre-fund the account. Whereas Bitcoin Well doesn't actually hold any Bitcoin. They send it directly to your cold storage. But Bitcoin Well gives us some sats to give away to the channel here. And I don't want to forget about Nav's comment here. So I'm going to put this one up for a second. But okay. So we're going to give away some free sats here. Hopefully it works this time. But if you have a Lightning wallet on your phone, like a Speed wallet or a Wallet Satoshi or a Coinos wallet, you can get that opened up and you can press send. And we're going to give away from some free sats here from Bitcoin Well for the first person to scan the code. And don't forget here, this is what I would say before we give away the sats. And this is just kind of an epiphany that I've had lately. Is like, take a second either right now or after the show today and just leave a comment in YouTube and just say if you liked it. If you liked it. If you didn't, then I don't know why you wasted so much time here. But if you think that other people would learn something from watching these shows, these lessons, then just leave a little comment saying great show today, blah, blah, blah. Appreciate it, whatever. And don't do it for me. Do it for people who are going to be scrolling through YouTube, because that's something that people do. They actually look at the comments. I do this all the time. If I've never seen a channel before and I'm going to watch a video, before I actually commit to watching that video, before I commit my time to watching it, I scroll through the comments. And if there's nothing there, then I'm like, this must be a pretty boring video. I'm not going to learn much from it. So if you think this video will help grow the Bitcoin network, strengthen the Bitcoin network, then just take like 2 seconds and just say, great video, something like that. I know it's kind of illusionary, but it actually does help people in their decision to either watch the video or not. Then once they're actually watching it, then it's kind of up to me. But that helps. If you have no ability to support the channel financially, that's a very easy way to do it, and helpful for the network. Don't do it for me, do it for the Bitcoin network, because at the end of the day, we are all on Team Bitcoin here. So hopefully everybody has your wallets out. We're going to give away, I'm going to do a couple of different tosses here. So hopefully we can hit a big one. The first person, I'll blow it up here a little bit for you. The first person to scan this QR code is going to win some sats. Ready? Set. Toss one. In the well. In the well. Whoa. Well, the QR is there. We don't know how much we won yet. Or did we? Yeah, we did. And you can either tell us in the chat if you won, or you can keep it to yourself. It's up to you. But let's see how much that lucky person won. 477. Your wish just came true. You won 477 freedom units, FUs, or $477 at some point in the future. That's a big win. All right, so we're going to do that a couple more times here. Ready, set, go. Must have hit a button. There we go. So let's see who won this one and what did they win. Ready? Let's see how much they won. One of the guys won 220. What was it? 210,000 sats one day in this. 530. That's a pretty good one. 530, and we'll do. We like things in threes, so we're gonna do one more here. How's about that? One more. I didn't even check if these were claimed, by the way. Hopefully somebody got them. So here we go. Here's the last third one here, courtesy of our friends over at the Bitcoin Well. What did we win here? Who gets it? What'd they win? Zach Bryan, I don't have time for you today, man. Okay. What'd they win? Big one? 581. Not bad. Those are some good amounts. I'm happy with that. So again, those are courtesy of our friends at the Bitcoin Well. I would say if you are in Canada, Bitcoin Well is the way that I buy all my Bitcoin, except of course the daily buys for the show, as I mentioned. But you can do a lot on there, man. If you're from Canada, I think the US is either on the way or already has a lot of these features. But you can set up a recurring buy. You can pay your bills on there. The cool thing is you get points and you can throw coins into the wishing well for free sats based on how much activity you have on there. So you get free sats. But the coolest thing for me, the best thing that Bitcoin Well does is they actually do free swaps. So if you're somebody who uses on-chain and Lightning all the time, you can actually do free swaps back and forth using Bitcoin Well. I haven't seen that anywhere else in the world on an exchange. So you can just go to bitcoinwell.com/Jor if you're in Canada or the US, and you can get yourself an account there. And that's why I have no issues supporting companies like River, who shows full proof of reserves, and Bitcoin Well, because they actually don't hold any Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Well, I wouldn't say is for like new people to Bitcoin. It's for a little bit more experienced users who have a cold storage set up or at least have a Bitcoin wallet, because you can't store your Bitcoin on there. They don't hold anybody's Bitcoin. Their reserves, Bitcoin Well reserves, would be 0, because as soon as you send them dollars, they send you Bitcoin. They don't hold any Bitcoin. So I'm going to have, just in case you're watching the show later, I'm going to put all these chat links in the pin comment for you and more. I got a bunch of great links in there. If you're into buying Bitcoin stuff and using Bitcoin companies, shit like that. And the last thing that I want to say here is actually a couple things. I'm not done yet. Even though I said we're going to do 2 hours, I got a couple more things to say here. We also got to get to, hey, look at that. VHF, 57 Canadian dollars. He got 46,841 FUs. Very nice. Very nice. And Tim Bain just subbed to here or Rumble. Oh, we got a couple people that subscribed on Rumble. Nice. So they'll get some shout outs for next week on the show. Okay. We got a couple more questions here. I don't want to leave any questions unanswered here. I got a couple more things I want to talk about too. But anyways, let's keep her going here. Why not? Why not? It's a disaster outside. So what else am I going to do? Okay, well, I'm looking like Wilson on Home Improvement here right now with this large comment from Nav. But Nav says you can buy the house you want with only the down payment. Worrying about the payments like mortgage, interest, taxes, etc. If you can put down a payment, put it into Bitcoin, then wait until that Bitcoin is worth as much as that house in 5 or 10 years. Then make that down payment with the Bitcoin and make the payments with the Bitcoin. Oh, and a side bonus, you will get wealthy just from the leftover Bitcoin. I ran the numbers. You literally get wealthy on the side as well. That's the play, man. That's what I'm telling you. And I think that in less than 5 years from now, every single mortgage is going to have a Bitcoin component to it. Where you used to, and I'll probably do a lesson on this too, because this is like going to change the game completely. But like where you used to just put up a down payment and the bank would just like store that away somewhere as like a reserve on your house, like, to make sure in case you default on it, they have a little bit of wiggle room there. they're going to take that down payment and they're just going to buy Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin is going to sit on the mortgage with the house, with the loan, with the Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin over time is going to grow to a point where it exceeds your house. And so not only will you be able to pay off that house, but the Bitcoin you still have, the house you still have, that's where this whole thing's going to. It's just one of those things that take time to play out, right? So yeah, great comment there, Nav. Great comment. Wait, what? I think I missed a couple more here, and then I want to get to Noster. Bryce says, what ratio do you KYC to non-KYC? I do like 40% non-KYC and most KYC because KYC is cheaper and easier, but non-KYC feels so good to own. Yeah, I don't, I have no comment on that, Bryce. Sorry. Not that I don't subscribe to the theory that you do. It's just, it's not, I don't think it's appropriate for me to be talking about it on a public channel, unfortunately. Okay, Chad says the interest rate on River is 3.3%. So if you got some cash on your River that you, I mean, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. Oh, my grandma's calling me. My grandma's a legend. She's 85 years old, still runs a catering business. Absolute legend. I'll call her right away. She always says, Jory, you never answer your phone. I said, yeah, I'm busy. I'm freaking busy doing things, Grandma. I don't just wait around by my phone. I always call her right back, but she would expect me not to answer. So yeah, I mean, what you could do is like, if you get a bonus, Christmas bonus, you get an income tax refund, you got a little bit of cash kicking around, you just throw that into a River account. You let it sit there. You show up every day for the Visionary show, every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. You let that fiat sit there. You're earning 3.3% interest on it. And then you can just slowly daily smash by with us. That's the play. That's the play for sure. Milo says, ding. Dean says, you're a gun jor. More people should see a gun. I've never been called that before. I'm assuming that's a compliment because Dean proceeded to zap 21 saps twice after that. I've never been called a gun before. That's, I think that's a compliment. And we got Danger Zoni. Danger Zoni zapped 210 freedom units. Thank you, my friend. It's a new face in the chat there. Okay, so a couple more things I want to say, and then we'll hit the road here for the week. Number one, Saturdays. I know I forgot last week. My bad. I actually just realized that right before the show today that I didn't do one on Saturday. So this weekend, we're actually going to have a double header. We're going to do one Saturday morning, which is going to be lesson 7, talking about micropayments and how Bitcoin gets rid of spam from the internet. And then we're going to do lesson number 8, which we talked about today, just the lesson part of it on Sunday. So both 10 a.m. Eastern time, they're both going to be on YouTube. But I strongly encourage you, if you enjoy the conversations here, show up for our daily show. Show up for our daily show every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. The other thing I'm going to be doing on the daily show is I'm actually going to be promoting Bitcoin companies. Bitcoin companies, Bitcoin products, anybody who's looking to sell anything for Bitcoin. Like if you got a piece of land or a house or a dirt bike or a collectible or anything that you want to sell, we're going to be doing like daily kind of like classifieds. The majority of them are going to be like Bitcoin businesses that we're going to be promoting, but it's all going to be value for value. So I'm not going to charge anything to promote the businesses. And then it'll all be kind of results based. You can send whatever you want to, just like I do my one-on-one sessions. Some I get burned on, but some I do pretty well on. So it usually nets out over the long term doing that. And I just think it's how the world should be. And so that's what I'm doing. So if you have a business, if you have a Bitcoin, you don't necessarily have to have a Bitcoin business, but if you're, you watch the channel, you want me to promote your channel or your business, I'm going to be doing that on the Daily Show and on Noster going forward. So that's going to be starting in 2026. And the last thing here is we're going to do our reminders for the week. Our reminders here. And again, if you do want to support the channel, we don't have any sponsors here. And that's why I like the value for value thing, because it's not going to be, there's going to be no strings, right? Like I can help promote Bitcoin businesses, help grow the network, the circular economies. but there's no strings. If they don't want me to promote their business, they just won't. If they don't think that they got anything from my promotion, they don't have to pay me. So that's something I'm going to be doing on the daily show. But yeah, we don't have any sponsors over there. So this community runs 100% on beautiful souls out there. I call them angels, but people like Dean, people like Danger Zoni, people like Forrest, people like Peepo, people like Josh, people like Cypher, people like Cannon, people like Sin Diesel, people like Praetorian, and people like Trevor. That's what keeps the wheels running here, the lights on. It's kind of crazy that we don't have any sponsors here paying our monthly salary. And shout out to a couple people. I know Forrest is the same way. So our reminders for the week. Before we go, I'm running out of voice here. I've done a lot of streaming today. Too much, some might even say. But we're not done yet because we got to go through our reminders here. And I don't know if you saw that I posted something, a video of how I almost lost a lot of Bitcoin last week. So I'm going to add this one, bonus. Everyone is going to try to steal your Bitcoin, mostly from afar. So as I mentioned at the top of the hour here, we have a company called Bitcoin Citadel, which is where we help people take self-custody and have like a very, very robust Bitcoin security setup. Mostly from afar though. But the big thing that we need to be paying attention to more than anything else, obviously you want to have really good, robust physical security for the wrench attacks. But most people are going to try to do it from their own house in Indonesia, in Pakistan, in Turkey, in Ukraine, in China, in Bangladesh, everywhere. Why would they hop on an airplane to come to your house when they could just try to manipulate into you sending them your Bitcoin? So keep an eye out for this. And one thing I said, and I'll just share this here quickly with everybody, is I told everybody to leave a note. So I got my nice cold card box here. This is the cold card that I keep in my house. And inside of it, I got this note right on top. So I got the cold card inside, purple one. Beautiful, beautiful device. But on top of that, I have a little note here. So you want to verify the address. Is it legitimate? You want to verify that there's no trace of your Bitcoin address. Somebody, you're not doxing yourself, essentially. That's what actually made me stop and think about it. Saved me a lot of Bitcoin. Is there a trace? Is this legitimate? And then you want to verify the person or the receiver of that Bitcoin. Are they legitimate? So just putting this note right on top of your cold card here could be the difference between you accidentally sending somebody your Bitcoin and not. So that's my free piece of advice for this week for you. Top one here is never tell anyone how much Bitcoin you have. It says no way to win there. Zero way to win. And it doesn't matter how many beers you have either. Do not tell anybody how much Bitcoin you have, ever. Nobody needs to know. And it's one of those things, it's a psychological thing where you tell somebody once how many Bitcoin you have, or how many sats you have, I should say, they are never going to forget that. That's going to be burned into their skull forever. Could be 30 years later, and they're going to say, George told me one time that he had 50,000 sats, whatever it is. So just don't tell anybody ever. Nobody needs to know how much Bitcoin you have, especially not in the freaking YouTube comments with your name attached to it. Fiat price is completely irrelevant. Anytime you can, you trade your fake dollars, your units of illusion, for real dollars, units of freedom. You want to make sure that your signing device, your cold card or your passport or whatever you have, you want to make sure it's in a separate location from the recovery phrase of that device. Because if you have them in the same spot, that's a single point of failure. And if that single point of failure goes down, it fails, your Bitcoin's gone. 2 is 1, 1 is none. This is for anything important in your life. This is recovery phrases, your photos, your videos, your documents. Because if you have one copy of it and something happens to that copy, you have none. And I have exchanges on here too, because I really believe that everybody here should have at least 3 accounts on 3 different exchanges. So if you're in Canada, that would be Bitcoin Well, Bull Bitcoin, ShakePay. If you're in the US, to me, that would be Bitcoin Well, River, Strike probably. But the reason you want to do that is because you always want to have the ability to buy or sell Bitcoin. If the price is going way up or coming way down, you want to make sure that you can buy. And if you only have one exchange set up and that exchange is down for maintenance or whatever, and you can't buy or sell when you really need to, that's a problem. So make sure you have at least two. I'd go with three though. The key to wealth here is multiple streams of sats. Get as many of these as you can. Think about your Bitcoin stack as like a giant ocean of Satoshis. And you want as many rivers flowing into that ocean as you can possibly create. And they don't have to be large. They can be $5 a month. You could set up a additional recurring buy for $2 a week. You just want to create as many different streams of sats flowing into your ocean as possible. And you want to do that for a very long time. So we're coming up to December 31st here soon. And this is the only thing that matters in Bitcoin is that you have more sats at the end of the year than you had on the beginning of the year. Because there's going to be a lot of tough days in Bitcoin where you're tempted to buy or sell, or hopefully you want to buy, but sell. And you might have to sell. You might have to, something comes up. You blow a tire on your car, your hot water heater blows up, your kid needs an emergency dental implant. Like, you're going to have to spend your Bitcoin once in a while, maybe, if you're significantly allocated to it. But if you can have more sats at the end of the year than you had at the beginning of the year, and you can do that for like 10 years, you win. End of story. Here, I already have this one on here. It's much easier to steal your Bitcoin from Singapore than flying to your house. So that's this one. Everyone's going to try to steal your Bitcoin. And number 8 here, again, lots of volatility. This asset is incredibly misunderstood, mispriced. And you're going to be 99% of your journey here. You're going to feel like a dummy. Your friends are going to think you're a dummy. Everybody in your life's going to think you're a dummy. But we are right about Bitcoin. We are right about Bitcoin. Price does not equal value. And if you put in the work to understand Bitcoin, you understand what I'm talking about, then weather the storms, get through it, keep your head up, protect your sats, and smile. Smile. 1x5. Good to see the growth. I mean, we're not growing much on YouTube, but we're growing overall for sure. But anyways, that's what I got for you this week. Wow, this was a long one, long day. So again, just on your way out, if you don't mind, again, I'm going to have all these links in the pinned comments below. If you don't have the ability to support the channel this way, one thing you could do is just press the like button. Very easy. It doesn't really mean much. Comments mean more, because comments is very similar to like a review section of Amazon, where somebody's looking at a product, and before they buy it, they make sure that they want to see what other people say. Same as this. Before people commit to watching a video or a 2-hour stream, they want to see, is it going to be worth my time to watch? So on your way out, if you don't mind, just leave a comment if you enjoyed it, if you think that other people would get value from it, and it would help grow the Bitcoin network and make some good Bitcoiners out there. Nothing to smile about. What? You're in the wrong spot, my friend. Milo says, smile and maybe roll your eyes at the FUD. That's true. Nothing to smile about. That sounds like a you problem, man. You got so much to smile about. You're alive at the greatest time in history, my friend. You can trade $1 for 11,000 sats or 1,100 sats today. And if you don't believe me, you should check out the show I did this morning, because we spent about an hour and a half talking about this exact subject today, which was that it's all about your perspective. It's all up to you. There's not going to be a politician or anybody that's going to save you. Nobody's going to tell you what you should think, what you should do. It's up to you. So that's the show from today. That might not work here. Let me try that again. That's got the HTML at the end of it. I'm kind of sewering myself with YouTube here, but whatever. It is what it is. I want people to start watching the daily shows, because that's where the real action happens. It was a good show today. if you need something to be hopeful for, and it's a little bit of tough love, but it's reality of things. So that's the show from this morning. All right, I got to go before I pass out here. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the support. Love the positive attitude. Bitcoin is a mental journey as well. Yeah, that's really what our daily show is. It's more focused around like the mindset of being wealthy. And that was the quote that kind of I don't know if it inspired it, but it was like it was something along the lines of a person with direction and purpose is wealthy. A person without or living in a state of confusion is poor, regardless of how many dollars they have in their bank account. It's all about the mindset. And there's a lot of Bitcoiners out there holding a lot of Bitcoin who don't realize how wealthy they're going to be and how much they have to shift their mindset for that. There you go, Cypher. Okay, thanks everybody. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here before I hit the road. I see Arnie's here. I thought I heard him. Where'd he go? Okay, so we're going to wrap up here. I thought Arnie was going to come say hi, but he decided not to. There you go. Thank you, Cypher. Cypher in the comments there giving me some help without having to say it. So that's what we got. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place. And join us on Saturday for the replay of this, the clip, and join us for the daily show going forward. I'd love to see you in the chat there. So there he is, the man himself, Arnie Boy. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a great day, great week, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.